Welcome into NFL Daily by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Happy to have you with us. On today's show, we are going to talk about the possibility of Lamar Jackson heading to the Washington Commanders. As you may have heard, the Ravens placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on Jackson yesterday. Could he stay within the DMV there? I'll tell you more about that coming up in just a bit. Also, we will check in with Will Scott on our Texans channel, as he has some insights about the possibility of Jimmy G going to Houston. Both of these segments today come from our new channels here at Chat Sports, as we're covering the Houston Texans over on Texans Today. You can subscribe there at youtube.com/TexansTV. If you're a Commanders fan and want more Commanders coverage, we got you covered there as well at youtube.com/WFTTV for the latest happenings on your favorite team. Let's go ahead and get started with the Commanders. Welcome into the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Happy to have you with us. On today's show, we are talking about the possibility of Washington adding Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. The Ravens placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on Lamar on Tuesday afternoon, right before the deadline. And you may be asking yourself, well, what does the non-exclusive tag mean? What does that mean for the Washington Commanders? Well, here's an explanation from Spotrac exactly what it is. When a player is offered a non-exclusive tag, he is able to negotiate with other organizations. If an offer sheet is submitted and signed by the tag player, the previous team must match the offer to keep the player. Otherwise, the player will officially sign with the new team, who will send 2 first-round picks to the losing team in order to complete the transaction. So, in a nutshell, the Ravens right now are set to pay Lamar $32.4 million, and the Commanders could make an offer and give the Ravens a chance to match, and if the Ravens do not match, then the Commanders would give up 2 first-round picks to get Lamar Jackson. That's how essentially that would all work. More on this situation and if the Commanders should pursue Lamar Jackson or not in just one moment. Before we do, folks, you got to subscribe to the Commanders Report, as we're talking about your favorite team here on the channel, as we have the latest news and rumors. We're counting down to free agency, just about a week away now. We also have the latest happenings in free trades, the draft, all of that. We got covered here on the channel. You got to turn on notifications so you never miss a moment, folks. You will be glad you subscribed to our new Commanders Report channel. The best part about it, too, it's free. It doesn't cost you a thing. YouTube.com/WFTTV to subscribe now. Subscribe all off-season long, and you'll be glad you did for the latest on the Washington Commanders. Now, here's the deal. The truth of the matter, Lamar Jackson is the most explosive player in the National Football League. The price tag would be hefty of what you would have to put out there to convince the Ravens not to counter with an opportunity to match, right? Well, here's what you're looking at. I know Lamar's had the injuries. I understand that. But it wasn't too long ago that he was playing at an MVP level that was just terrific. You go back to his MVP season where he threw 36 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, and over 3,100 yards passing. That was just unreal, right? And then you factor in what he did on the ground as well, with 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. I mean, he was a true dual-threat weapon. When he's healthy, no one is more explosive than Lamar Jackson is. And what we saw last year before he got hurt, he was playing at an MVP caliber level with an awful wide receiver room. Pair him up with Eric Bieniemy, watch out. That could be very dangerous. But do you want to give Lamar the guaranteed money potentially that it would take to convince the Ravens not to match and then still give up 2 first-round picks? That's a tough call that the Washington Commanders will have to consider. What say you? Your chance to be the GM here on the Commanders Report. Should Washington make the move to bring in Lamar Jackson? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let us know in the comment section. We'll see you next time here on the Commanders Report.
H-Town, how's it going? Will Scott here with Texans Today. talking about some free agency rumors on today's show. And if you guys want to continue to get more videos involving the Houston Texans here at Chat Sports, then go and subscribe to the channel. I grew up in the H, man. I'm all about the H, and I know how legit Texans fans are, and I'm trying to show my bosses that. So help me out. Go and subscribe to the channel right now. We're talking about, and some of y'all might not be crazy about this, but we're talking about the possibility of Jimmy Garoppolo being signed by the Houston Texans. And there was this big report from CBS Sports saying that the Texans are going to push to bring Jimmy Garoppolo to Houston. Here is what Jonathan Jones, a NFL insider from CBS Sports, said. Sources tell CBS Sports that there's a push within the building to sign quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo and play him in 2023 while drafting a quarterback at some point in the first round with the plan to sit him for the year and grow. The Texans, hired Bobby Slowick from the Niners to be their offensive coordinator. Who better to execute that offense quickly and efficiently than a healthy Garoppolo who knows the head coach and offensive coordinator from his time in the Bay Area and the general manager from his time in New England. And I'm not surprised that Jimmy G's being linked here to Houston because of the DeMeco Ryans connection, because of the Nick Caserio connection. But this would be terrible for the Houston Texans. You have an opportunity right now with the number 2 overall pick to draft your franchise quarterback for the foreseeable future. Kind of hit the restart button, right? You have a lot of young talent on this team. That young talent needs to include a quarterback, in my opinion, not a veteran like Jimmy Garoppolo, who is a middle-of-the-road, mediocre quarterback. And the report also said the Texans' thinking here is they could sign Jimmy G and then draft a quarterback to develop under him. And they said that quarterback would be taken in the first round, which makes me think that the Texans might be interested in Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. Maybe taking them instead of C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, because if you draft C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, those guys aren't projects. Those guys are going to start right away, especially with a team like the Texans. But Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, those guys might need some time developing. So apparently the Texans are thinking about maybe drafting a quarterback, perhaps Levis or Richardson, and then having them sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo for a year before taking over as the franchise QB. Now, do you want to sign Jimmy Garoppolo? Bring him to the Texans. Type S for sign or type P for pass down in the comments section. What do you think the Texans should do here? And Jimmy G is coming off a pretty good season. Was putting up really good numbers with the Niners before his season-ending injury, a 67% completion percentage, over 2,400 yards, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions for Jimmy G with the Niners. So I understand, why there might be some interest there from DeMeco, from Nick, the connections that Garoppolo has to this team. But I don't think the Texans should overthink this. They might be thinking, well, we want to start winning now. And we know what Jimmy G is as a quarterback. We know he can maybe go out and win us some games. So let's sign him, and let's take, maybe a Will Anderson at number 2 in the draft. But I do not think the Texans should overthink this. You have the number 2 overall pick, right? So take whatever quarterback out of Young or Stroud is not taken at number 1 overall. And the dream scenario, and perhaps even a very possible scenario, is the Colts or somebody else trades up, takes Richardson at 1, and you get, in my opinion, the best quarterback in this draft class, Bryce Young, at number 2. But I don't think you can go wrong with Young or Stroud. Take whichever guy's on the board there at number 2, have them be your franchise quarterback for years to come. But signing Jimmy Garoppolo is not what this football team needs to do this offseason. And we're going to have you covered throughout this offseason. Plenty of Texans free agency and draft content. So subscribe to the channel right now, youtube.com/TexansTV.